All right, everyone. One big problem that we have with Congress is a very, very glaring one. Link in the description, archived, of course. A bill is now moving forward. It was sponsored by Boebert, Stefanic, annaluna, and others to try to prevent members of Congress from congressional stock trading. This may seem like a boring issue, but it's actually very, very relevant. Imagine this. You're a public official. You can vote with regards to trade deals and economic issues, things of that nature. Of course, the House especially controls the purse strings. Senate gets its particular powers as well, but there's been a problem for a very long time. Imagine, as it were, that you are enabled to potentially cast a vote in favor or against a particular trade deal, a particular federal grant, something like that, and you have stock in a company that is directly involved with what you're actually voting on. This is called insider trading. There's no other way to put it. Let's say, for example, you're bullish on a company. So you buy into the stock. Nancy Pelosi is notorious for having done this. There's a reason why she's worth $100 million despite getting a normal congressional salary. It didn't come from the congressional salary. So you vote in favor of something that would be beneficial to the company that you have invested in. Or, likewise, you could divest yourself and cock block the company and short it or something like that. This happens all the time. Members of Congress have been doing this for a very long time. Now, I'm going to give begrudging credit to someone that you would never actually expect. Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat in the Senate, ironically, ran for president unsuccessfully. There was the Warren meme team and all of these other things. Very cringe individual, does not know how to drink a Rolling Rock, by the way. Not that you would want to drink it anyway. I have absolutely no idea why that company still exists. Maybe she's invested with them. She only has mutual funds. She's been raising this issue actually for quite a number of years. The GOP is now hopping on board, and now they're forcing a bill. annaluna took the fore on this one. Again, there's a reason that I like her, and it's not just because she's cute. She has forced a bill through because Mike Johnson, of course, he doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't even have a job at this point, it seems. He basically just sleeps all day, I suppose. He's a little bit like the Republican version of Joe Biden, only at least he's still cognizant and capable of changing his own socks. Mike Johnson has been a little bit of a letdown. I know. Trump promoted him, yeah, whatever. That was out of pragmatism. I don't believe that it was out of any particular sense of liking the idea of him leading the House Republicans. So we'll give begrudging credit to Elizabeth Warren, but now the Republicans have taken the floor. Now, this should be a bipartisan issue, by the way. Anyone who marks themselves down as not wanting to advance this bill is effectively outing themselves as insider traders. Effectively, they're saying, yeah, no, I don't want to be banned from potentially buying stock from a company that I'm going to actively promote through legislation. Now, this is different from the private marketplace, so to speak. If a person is invested in a business and they attempt to promote that business or something like that, it doesn't affect anyone else. It might manipulate stock prices, but they're a private individual. They can't legalize what they're doing. Members of Congress can. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit of a different issue. There are some people who conflate the two. It's rather interesting, actually. There are very few members of Congress, House or Senate, who do not engage in this behavior. Virtually all of them have massive stock portfolios. Some of these people are worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Where do they get the money from? I wonder why. It's just I'm so confused as to where they got the money from. You're in Congress. So you voted for a bill that's going to help you. You voted against a bill that's going to be a detriment to whatever holdings that you happen to have. It's a conflict of interest that is taxpayer funded. That's the whole problem. Private industry, who cares? I mean, it's cutthroat. That's how corporations and businesses work, generally speaking. Of course, they want to outcompete one another. Of course, they want to absorb one another's stock value. Of course, this chip manufacturer and that chip manufacturer are in some sort of war over who's going to manufacture the chips. But what if members of Congress have invested in one or the other, and then they vote for or against a bill that would give, a shit ton of money to one of the companies that they weren't invested in, or they decide to act to the detriment of that company directly, or they decide to ingratiate themselves to the company that they happen to be invested with. Insider trading in Congress is one of the major economic issues actually that we face, because we're not talking about a small amount of money here. Again, you look at Nancy Pelosi's net worth, you'll see it for yourself. We're talking about billions of dollars per year. And the taxpayers are subsidizing the lifestyles of the rich and vapid within Congress. I want to see, line by line, every person in Congress who votes for or against the continuation of this particular bill. Those that vote against it, because it should be unanimous, it should be absolutely bipartisan. This is a no-brainer sort of issue. Anyone that votes against it, assume that they're insider trading. They don't want to get discovered in so doing. Also, they want their cash cow to still be there, because that's how they're making most of their money. Yeah, politicians get up to other things to make money. Sometimes, like Kamala Harris did fairly recently, they'll release a book that really nobody cares about, and then all of a sudden you sold 1 million copies in China. That's basically what happened with Kamala Harris. There's a reason why it was a New York Times bestseller. And it ain't because people in the United States decided that what she had to say was interesting, other than a handful of legacy media nerds who picked it apart, and even the liberal legacy media wasn't really able to defend her because the book is so shitty. I mean, Morbid Stories will be far more intelligent than anything that she's ever written in her entire life. Other than that, mainly it's stock trading. Again, to the credit of several members of Congress, and it's very much a minority. Some of them only do like the mutual fund, or they have a stack of bonds or something like that. So they're betting on the U.S. explicitly with bonds. That's what it is. By the way, it contributes to the national debt. It's a complex issue that I'm not going to bother explaining. But most of them engage in stock trading. It's like Nancy Pelosi's husband, the gay dude with the dildo hammer, that particular incident, which the legacy media has never talked about again. I wonder why. There's reasons for this. Dumped a bunch of stock right before a congressional vote that directly impacted the potential stock price. If I remember correctly, it was about $10 million. That is not a lot to the Pelosi's. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, she's got $10 million of ice cream in her refrigerator. But it's a lot of money to the average person. To me, to most of you, etc., it actually is fairly meaningful. Nancy Pelosi should give me $10 million. I could use it more effectively. I would actually use it for productive purposes instead of buying $50 pints of ice cream. I really do not understand that. So I congratulate the members of Congress for putting this forward and for trying to bypass Mike Johnson. He's really been a goddamn failure. Really should be out on his ass more than anything else. This is something that is a must pass. And again, anyone voting against this, they're pretty much showing you exactly what they're doing. Not my stocks, my stonks. Oh my God. How will I make a living? Your Senate salary's only $500,000 a year. How are you supposed to get by on that? I mean, I guess I have a little sympathy because after the Bidenomic inflationary cycle, yeah, 500,000 a year used to be very, very impressive. Now it's like, even though you've got free food and a free congressional apartment, a free bar, and free medical care, still, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get by for some of these people, especially if you're living in a city like Washington, D.C. So they get credit for actually attempting this. Hopefully, it bypasses the normal House rules, goes through. Again, they should vote in favor of this. When it gets to the Senate, it'll be a little bit more difficult because they are even more notorious than members of the House for engaging in that kind of behavior. So we're going to see what happens, but my hope is that it actually does go through. That's about all. Peace out.